¿Quieres atraer avances financieros reales y una prosperidad duradera, incluso en una economía tan impredecible como la actual? Tal vez has hecho todo lo que te dijeron que hicieras. Trabajar más horas. Ser responsable. No rendirte. Tal vez incluso intentaste pensar positivo, mantener buena actitud, confiar. Y aún así, algo no termina de encajar. El dinero llega, pero con tensión. O llega, y se va demasiado rápido. O simplemente no llega al nivel que, en el fondo, sabes que podrías experimentar. Y eso genera una pregunta silenciosa que muchos no se atreven a formular. Hoy no vamos a hablar de fórmulas rápidas, inversiones milagrosas ni promesas vacías. Hoy vamos a ir a la raíz. Porque cuando observas con honestidad, descubres algo incómodo, pero profundamente liberador. El verdadero bloqueo financiero casi nunca está afuera. Está en la mente. Y más específicamente, en la forma inconsciente en la que te relacionas con la abundancia. Quédate hasta el final, porque este no es solo un video para escuchar. Es un proceso que puedes empezar a vivir hoy mismo. Vivimos en una época curiosa. Nunca hubo tanta información sobre cómo ganar dinero. Y nunca hubo tanta ansiedad alrededor de él. Muchas personas creen que la abundancia es algo que se alcanza cuando, por fin, se dan ciertas condiciones. Cuando gane más. Cuando todo esté estable. Cuando no haya riesgos. Pero esa idea es como decir: voy a aprender a nadar cuando el agua deje de moverse. La abundancia no es un destino al que se llega. Es una relación que se construye. Y si esa relación está basada en miedo, comparación o culpa, el resultado suele ser siempre el mismo. Sensación de escasez, incluso cuando hay ingresos. Aquí aparece una de las ilusiones más peligrosas. Pensar que el dinero es el problema. Cuando, en realidad, el dinero solo responde a instrucciones mentales. No tiene voluntad propia. Obedece la forma en la que te percibes, decides y actúas. Para entender esto mejor, imagina que tu mente es como un terreno fértil. No importa cuántas semillas de abundancia intentes plantar si el suelo está lleno de piedras invisibles. Esas piedras son creencias que absorbiste sin darte cuenta, muchas veces desde la infancia o el entorno. No soy bueno para los negocios. Si gano más, algo malo va a pasar. El dinero cambia a las personas. No las elegiste conscientemente. Pero hoy influyen en decisiones clave. Por ejemplo, dudas antes de cobrar lo justo. Postergas proyectos importantes. Te conformas con menos de lo que sabes que vales. No porque seas incapaz, sino porque existe una lealtad inconsciente a la escasez conocida. La mente prefiere lo familiar, incluso si duele, antes que lo desconocido, aunque sea mejor. Y es justamente aquí donde el tratamiento mental espiritual se vuelve una herramienta poderosa. El tratamiento mental espiritual no intenta convencerte de nada. No te dice, cree más. Te dice, ordena tu mente. Es como ajustar la frecuencia de una radio. La señal siempre estuvo ahí. Pero mientras no estás en la frecuencia correcta, lo único que escuchas es ruido. El TM ajusta la mente para que pueda recibir lo que ya existe en potencia. Y aquí es importante aclarar algo. No es religión. No es dogma. No es fantasía. Es una práctica consciente basada en la observación de cómo funciona la mente humana cuando se alinea con principios universales. El primer principio es el de la unidad. Este principio nos recuerda que no estamos separados de la abundancia ni de la fuente que la origina. La idea de que otros pueden y yo no es una verdad, es una creencia aprendida, repetida tantas veces que terminó pareciendo real. La misma inteligencia que mantiene el latido de tu corazón sin que tengas que controlarlo, es la que también organiza ideas, oportunidades y caminos en tu vida. Cuando dejas de interferir con miedo, duda o culpa, esa inteligencia puede operar con mayor claridad a tu favor. El segundo principio es el de causa y efecto. Nada en tu realidad financiera ocurre por casualidad. Cada resultado que ves hoy es la consecuencia de una causa interna previa, generalmente invisible. Tu situación económica es como una sombra proyectada en la pared. No puedes cambiar la sombra moviéndola directamente, eso solo genera frustración. Para que la sombra cambie, debes modificar el objeto que la produce. Cuando cambias tu estado de conciencia, tus decisiones, percepciones y reacciones se reorganizan. Y entonces, el efecto externo comienza a transformarse de manera natural. El tercer principio es el de la mente subjetiva. Esta parte profunda de la mente no analiza ni cuestiona, simplemente acepta y ejecuta. Funciona como un jardín automático. No discute qué semillas siembras, solo las hace crecer con el tiempo. Si siembras preocupación, el jardín producirá más experiencias que confirmen esa preocupación. El tratamiento mental espiritual no busca luchar contra la mente, sino enseñarte a sembrar conscientemente pensamientos alineados con orden, confianza y abundancia, para que los resultados que crezcan reflejen esa nueva elección interna. Uno de los errores más frecuentes ocurre cuando las personas repiten afirmaciones sin verdadera alineación interna. Dicen frases como, soy rico, soy rico, soy rico, pero por dentro sienten tensión, duda o ansiedad. Eso es como decir todo está bien mientras el cuerpo permanece rígido y los puños apretados. El mensaje verbal intenta avanzar, pero la emoción va en dirección contraria. Y aquí hay algo clave que conviene entender. La mente subjetiva no responde a las palabras que repites, sino al estado emocional desde el cual las pronuncias. Ella no escucha lo que dices, responde a lo que sientes como verdad. Otro error muy común es intentar atraer abundancia pidiendo desde la desesperación o la urgencia. Cuando pides de esa forma, aunque no lo notes, estás afirmando internamente que te falta algo, que no hay suficiente, que dependes de que algo externo llegue para sentirte bien. El tratamiento mental espiritual no funciona desde la súplica. No pide, porque pedir refuerza la idea de carencia. Reconoce, porque reconocer implica aceptar que ya existe una fuente ilimitada de provisión operando, incluso antes de que puedas verla reflejada en tu realidad. Cuando cambias de pedir a reconocer, la relación con el dinero empieza a transformarse desde la raíz. Ahora que ya comprendiste que bloquea la abundancia y cómo funciona la mente cuando se alinea, es momento de pasar del entendimiento a la práctica. El tratamiento mental espiritual no se queda en la teoría. Necesita ser aplicado con intención, claridad y calma. Este plan de acción no busca forzar resultados, sino reordenar la mente para que la abundancia pueda expresarse de manera natural. El primer paso es definir desde la conciencia, no desde el ego. Muchas personas formulan sus deseos financieros desde la comparación o la competencia, diciendo internamente, quiero ganar más que otros. Pero esa intención nace de la carencia y la tensión. El enfoque del TME es diferente. Se formula desde el equilibrio interno, por ejemplo, elijo estabilidad, expansión y tranquilidad en mi vida financiera. Cuando el deseo nace desde la paz, la mente se organiza mejor para recibir. El segundo paso es reconocer la inteligencia universal que ya está operando. Antes de cualquier afirmación, existe un momento silencioso de reconocimiento. No es pedir, es admitir internamente. Sé que hay orden, incluso cuando aún no lo veo. Este reconocimiento calma la mente y la saca del modo de urgencia. Y una mente en calma es mucho más receptiva. El tercer paso es declarar con calma y convicción. No se trata de repetir rápido ni con emoción forzada, sino de afirmar desde la certeza tranquila. Por ejemplo, reconozco que la abundancia es mi estado natural. Mi mente está alineada con ideas claras y oportunidades correctas. El dinero fluye hacia mí de manera ordenada, ética y sostenida. Confío en el proceso que ahora se activa. Estas declaraciones no buscan convencer a la vida, sino recordarle a la mente quién es. Si este tratamiento te resulta claro, tómate un segundo y guarda este video. La repetición consciente es parte del proceso. Y para que esto no se quede solo en palabras, vamos a integrarlo ahora mismo con una breve práctica. Respira profundo, sin forzar. Imagina que tu mente es como un lago. Cuando hay agitación, el agua se mueve y no refleja nada con claridad. Pero cuando el lago se calma, puede reflejar el cielo sin esfuerzo. Desde ese estado, repite internamente. Elijo soltar el miedo al dinero. Mi mente se ordena ahora. Estoy abierto a recibir sin culpa y sin tensión. La abundancia fluye porque dejo de resistir. Permanece unos segundos en silencio. Ese silencio no es vacío. Ese silencio también es tratamiento. Muchas personas esperan que la abundancia llegue como un gran evento, casi como un premio que aparece de repente. Pero en la mayoría de los casos, llega de una forma mucho más sutil. Llega como claridad. Como una conversación que antes no habrías tenido. Como una idea simple que ahora sí te atreves a ejecutar. Como una decisión que antes evitabas por miedo. No siempre es espectacular. Pero es coherente. Y cuando esa coherencia se sostiene en el tiempo, se convierte en prosperidad duradera. Aquí es donde muchas personas se detienen, y donde en realidad comienza el verdadero cambio. El tratamiento mental espiritual no se practica solo cuando tienes tiempo. Se integra a la vida cotidiana. 5 minutos diarios de práctica consciente reprograman más que una sesión intensa hecha una sola vez al mes. La gratitud, en este enfoque, no es un agradecimiento forzado. Es el reconocimiento tranquilo de que el flujo ya está activo, incluso antes de ver todos los resultados. Y cuando sueltas el apego a un resultado específico, la mente universal responde con más libertad y creatividad de lo que imaginas. Si llegaste hasta aquí, no fue casualidad. Tal vez este sea el momento de dejar de luchar con el dinero y comenzar a entenderlo desde la conciencia. La abundancia no se persigue. Se permite. Si este contenido te aportó claridad, deja en los comentarios una palabra que describa tu estado ahora. Eso refuerza el compromiso interno con el proceso que acabas de iniciar. Y si deseas seguir profundizando, suscríbete. Aquí seguimos explorando cómo la mente crea la realidad.
You see, most people go through life under the strange illusion that other people make them angry, that the world out there with its noise and nonsense somehow creeps inside and shakes the calm from within. But that's rather like blaming the mirror for the expression on your face. The truth is, nobody can bother you. They can only touch the part of you that is already disturbed. And the more you try to fight it, the more entangled you become in the very net you're trying to escape. Peace doesn't come by stiffening against life, but by realizing there's no one to stiffen. The waves rise and fall, and the ocean never minds. In the same way, anger, irritation, frustration, they come and go, but they are not you. To be unbothered is not to build a wall around yourself, but to see that there was never a separate self to defend in the first place. You see, when something happens, a disrespecting word, a sudden disappointment, a rude interruption, there's a tiny instant before you react. Most people never notice it. They leap from stimulus to response like a spark from flint, and then wonder why they feel burned. But in that small space, that fraction of a moment before the mind begins to chatter, lies your freedom. That's the gap where life gives you the chance to wake up, instead of merely react. The event itself is neutral. It has no meaning until you give it one. When someone calls you a fool, the insult only works if you believe in the fool they're talking to. If you don't, the words just vanish into thin air. So the game is not about controlling what happens, because that's impossible. It's about watching what happens within you and realizing, I don't have to pick that thought up. Anger only asks one thing of you, participation. The moment you stop playing, it dies of neglect. To react less is not weakness. It's the highest form of intelligence. It means you've remembered that you were never the puppet. One of the great sources of human misery is the quiet expectation that other people should know better. We spend an extraordinary amount of time waiting for the world to behave sensibly, as if everyone else secretly agreed to follow our rulebook. But of course they didn't. They never signed your invisible contract. They're simply playing their own game, completely unaware that you expected them to dance to yours. And when they don't, when they lie, forget, interrupt, disappoint, we feel offended, as though the universe itself has made some terrible mistake. Yet it hasn't. That's just the mind insisting they shouldn't be like that. But they are. Expecting people to act like you is like expecting the cat to bark because you're in the mood for a dog. When you give up demanding harmony from the world, you begin to laugh at how seriously you once took everyone else's behavior. And laughter, you see, is the sound of freedom returning. Once you stop expecting people to behave like you, another realization quietly dawns. You also stop needing them to agree with you. Because disagreement, you see, is just diversity in disguise. The same life that makes trees grow crooked makes minds grow in different directions. It's rather silly to demand that everyone see through your eyes when their windows open onto entirely different skies. And that's where most of our suffering begins. Not in what people do, but in our desperate urge to make them see it our way. So before we can ever find peace with others, we must loosen our grip on this idea of being right, this little badge we polish and wear upon the chest of me. We are terribly concerned, you know, with being right. It's one of our favorite addictions, the sweet intoxication of certainty. We argue, we defend, all to protect this fragile little castle called my opinion. But what if being right isn't the point at all? What if life isn't a debate to be won, but a dance to be enjoyed? Because notice, every time you must be right, someone else must be wrong. And so the world divides itself neatly into enemies and fools, all invented by your need to feel secure. The truth doesn't belong to anyone. It plays hide and seek through all of us. And the moment you stop chasing it, it comes and sits quietly beside you. When you drop the obsession with being right, you begin to listen, not to prepare a counter-argument, but to truly hear. You find that peace isn't born from victory. It comes when there's no longer anything to defend. So let others cling to their certainties. Let them win, because the one who no longer needs to win has already found the only thing worth keeping. It's peace. And when you no longer need to be right, you'll notice something quite extraordinary. Other people's opinions begin to lose their gravity. For so long, our sense of being right was tied to our sense of being somebody. And when that somebody feels threatened, even the gentlest disagreement sounds like thunder. But once you stop defending an image of yourself, the thunder becomes only noise, and the sky remains perfectly clear. You realize that what people say about you is simply an echo of their own mind, a reflection bouncing off their own glass. If you mistake that reflection for your face, you will spend your life trying to polish someone else's mirror. It's rather curious how much power we give to sound. Someone utters a few vibrations through the air, a sentence, a label, a careless remark, and suddenly your entire sense of self begins to tremble. You take their words, wear them like tattoos, and then wonder why you feel marked. But tell me, what exactly is being wounded? The sound passes, the air settles, and all that remains is your idea of what it meant. You see, the insult doesn't live in their mouth. It lives in your memory. When someone says you're foolish, that statement doesn't describe you. It describes their vision, their mood, their moment. Why let their passing weather become your climate? To depend on another's praise or blame is to hang your heart on a wind chime. Every breeze becomes a storm. Freedom begins when you realize that nothing anyone says about you has anything to do with who you actually are. Because who you are is not an opinion. It's the silence before every word. And silence, thank God, cannot be offended. Now, this doesn't mean you must let everyone trample through your garden while you sit smiling in eternal bliss. No, no. Love without intelligence becomes sentimentality, and peace without clarity becomes passivity. You see, protecting your energy isn't about building walls. It's about knowing where your garden ends and the wild forest begins. You can welcome visitors, but you needn't let them pitch a tent on your soul. Most people confuse kindness with compliance. They think to be spiritual is to say yes to everything, to be endlessly available, endlessly forgiving, endlessly exhausted. But even the sun sets, and even the ocean withdraws from the shore. Boundaries are not barriers. They are expressions of balance. When you say no, you're not rejecting the other. You're honoring the rhythm of your own being. Because if you give when you're empty, you offer not love, but resentment dressed as virtue. It's a funny thing. When you finally stop overextending yourself, you discover that life doesn't fall apart. It simply rearranges itself around your peace. And peace, unlike exhaustion, doesn't need to be earned. So, protect your energy not by closing the heart, but by staying rooted in yourself. Like a tree that bends with the wind, but never forgets where it stands. When you no longer feel the need to defend an image, you find that silence begins to speak for you. It's not the silence of avoidance or repression. It's the silence that comes when there's simply nothing left to say. Most people imagine strength as volume, as assertion, as a firm voice that must be heard. But Real strength often sounds like nothing at all, because truth doesn't argue, it just is. When someone throws anger at you, what happens if you don't throw it back? It falls to the ground like a stone that has lost its target. And in that quiet, something extraordinary occurs. Their fury begins to echo only in their own mind, while yours remains still, like a pond untouched by the wind. You see, silence is not a retreat. It's a refusal to participate in madness. It's not submission. It's sovereignty. It's saying without words, I will not be drafted into your war. When you stop reacting, the world reveals its true pace. Slow, rhythmic, almost musical. You find that you don't have to win arguments or prove points. You simply have to be still enough to hear life humming beneath the noise. And that hum, that quiet background of existence, is what people spend lifetimes chasing without realizing it has been humming through them all along. When you no longer rush to defend or explain, you begin to see something very curious about other people. They are mirrors, not obstacles. Every irritation, every insult, every criticism, it's life holding up a reflection of your own unfinished business. That's why certain remarks sting, while others pass like wind. The sting only finds what's already tender. So rather than blaming the messenger, look at what they've touched. You may find that the world isn't against you at all. It's simply showing you where you still hold resistance. The people who bother you the most are often your best teachers in disguise. They reveal the exact place where you're not yet free. And once you see this, you stop taking things so personally. The moment someone tries to provoke you, you almost want to thank them. Not because you enjoy the jab, but because they've helped you spot another knot you can now untie. That's the secret. People lose their power to bother you. The instant you realize they were never enemies, only mirrors polishing you back to clarity. And once you begin to see others as mirrors, something softer begins to unfold. You stop needing the reflection altogether. You no longer cling to the role of the one who must learn, or the one who must be calm, or even the one who must not be bothered, because all of those are still little masks, still the self trying to fix itself. Letting go isn't something you do. It's what happens when you stop holding on. Just as the hand releases a stone when it grows tired of grasping, the heart releases its burdens when it grows tired of pretending to control. You see, anger, resentment, and hurt, they're just the mind's way of saying, I haven't yet accepted what already is. But when you finally see the futility of resistance, when you stop demanding life to be polite, it becomes beautifully simple. People say what they say. The world moves as it moves. And you remain undisturbed, like the sky behind all weather. To let go is not to forget, nor to forgive in any official sense. It's to wake up and realize there's nothing to forgive, because there was never anyone separate to offend. The play goes on, the actors shout their lines, and you, at last, can sit in the audience, smiling, knowing it was all theater from the beginning. And in that smile, you discover the secret you were chasing all along. Nothing and no one can bother you. When you've stopped mistaking the play for real life.
It is rather peculiar how most conversations begin. Someone says, "Hi, how are you?" And without much thought, the other replies, "I'm fine, how are you?" The words slip out like coins from a machine. They keep the gears of social ritual turning, but they rarely touch the depth of what it means to truly meet another human being. Now, there is nothing wrong with politeness. Ritual has its place. But when every meeting begins with phrases emptied of life, we find ourselves living among shadows. Words pass back and forth, but the connection is missing. The one speaking is not really there, and the one hearing is not really touched. And so, surrounded by people, we remain alone. You see, words are not merely sounds. They are carriers of presence. And when they are spoken without presence, they become like husks, shells without fruit. To meet another being only through such husks is to miss the very thing you were longing for, the spark of life that leaps between two souls when they are awake to each other. Think of how music works. A musician may play the correct notes in the correct order with mechanical precision. But if there is no feeling, no breath, no willingness to risk, then what is played is only sound, not music. Another musician, perhaps less skilled, may sit at the same instrument and with a kind of playful freshness, touch the keys in a way that makes the whole room vibrate with life. The difference is not in the notes, but in the presence. So it is with speech. To open your mouth and speak automatically, repeating phrases you have said 1,000 times before, is like the lifeless musician striking notes without hearing them. To speak with presence, however, even with the simplest words, is like allowing music to arise in the space between you. It is felt instantly. Others may not know why, but they will remember you. The ordinary greeting, "Hi, how are you?" is not a sin, but it is often a disguise. It pretends to be connection when, in truth, it is absence. How many times has someone asked you this question, and you began to answer sincerely, only to notice their eyes already wandering elsewhere? In that moment, the words are revealed for what they are, not a request for truth, but a reflex, a habit. But imagine something else. Imagine meeting someone who does not hide behind the ritual, who is there with you in silence for a moment before the first word appears. Imagine they notice the look in your eye, or the way the sunlight touches your shoulder, and they begin there. Suddenly, you feel it, this person is awake. They are not running on autopilot. They are alive. It is not cleverness that draws us to such people. It is not charm in the shallow sense. It is presence. When someone speaks from presence, even the smallest word carries the weight of reality. It is alive, and because it is alive, it awakens life in us. Most people believe attraction is about tricks and techniques, the right line, the perfect image, the calculated move. But all of that is surface. What truly attracts is aliveness. To be awake in the midst of a world half asleep is magnetic. You need not try to impress. The very fact of being present is enough. Consider how we so often confuse the menu with the meal. A menu is useful. It points to the food. But no one in their right mind would sit at a table and attempt to eat the menu itself. And yet, in conversation, this is what happens when words are used without presence. How are you becomes like reading roast duck with orange sauce aloud without ever tasting it. So when I say, never say, "Hi, how are you?" I do not mean it as a literal command. I mean, do not use words as a substitute for presence. Do not let them become empty gestures that hide the fact that you are not truly there. To meet another person is an event so extraordinary that no formula could ever contain it. For here is the truth. Each meeting, no matter how ordinary, is unique. This moment, with this person, has never been before and will never be again. To greet someone mechanically is to treat the moment as if it were just another repetition. But to greet them with awareness is to honor its unrepeatable nature. And people feel that honor. They are touched by it, even if they cannot explain why. Words can be doors, or they can be walls. They can open into connection, or they can reinforce the sense of separation. It is not the dictionary definition that makes the difference, but the presence of the one who speaks. So if you wish to be felt, to be remembered, to draw others near, do not begin with autopilot phrases. Begin with life. Let even the smallest words be spoken as though for the first time. Let them carry the freshness of this moment, the only moment there is. And then, whether you speak 4 words or 40, it will not matter. What will matter is that you are here. And when you are here, the other cannot help but feel it. For the most irresistible quality in the world is simply to be awake. What, then, are these 4 words that can change the way you are received, the way you are remembered, the way another responds to you? They are not magical in themselves. You see, there are no incantations, no secret phrases that bend the will of others like spells. But there are words that, when spoken from presence, carry a power because they awaken presence in the one who hears them. The 4 words are these. It's good to see you. Notice the difference. To say, how are you, places the other in a position where they must report, summarize, justify, or perform. But to say, it's good to see you, is to make no demand. It is to acknowledge the simple miracle that they are here, and that you are here, and that, for this brief moment, your lives have touched. And when you speak these words with sincerity, something changes in the air. For in that instant, you are no longer strangers maintaining the ritual of civility. You are fellow beings, meeting. The words open a door, because they carry no pressure, no expectation. They affirm rather than inquire. They receive rather than demand. And people are drawn to this like plants to the sunday. Now, of course, you could take these same words and drain them of life. You could mutter them with the same automatic tone as how are you, and they would fall flat, for the power is never in the syllables themselves. It is always in the state of being from which they are spoken. But when the words rise naturally from presence, they act as a kind of mirror. They say to the other, I see you. I acknowledge that you exist, not as a concept, not as a role, but as you, here, now. And that is the most irresistible message of all. For what we long for, deeper than any flattery, deeper than any compliment, is to be seen, not as an image, not as a mask, but as we are. And when someone sees us in this way, even briefly, we feel ourselves expand. We feel lighter, freer, more at home. That is attraction in its most fundamental form, the recognition of being. It is a curious paradox that to attract others, one must stop trying to attract them. For as long as you are trying, as long as you are manipulating or strategizing, there is a tension. You are not at ease, and others sense it. But when you speak simply from the fact of presence, there is no trying, there is only being. And being is magnetic. This is why certain people seem to glow when they enter a room. It is not their clothes, their beauty, their cleverness. It is their ease. They are not reaching, not grasping, not clutching for attention. They are here, and because they are here, everyone else feels a little more here as well. So the 4 words, it's good to see you, are not a trick. They are a reminder to yourself as much as to the other. For when you say them, you are not only affirming the presence of the one before you, you are affirming your own. You are saying, in effect, I am awake enough to notice you and to be glad of it. And in that gladness, there is a lightness. And in that lightness, attraction blooms. Now, you may object, you may say, but what if it is not good to see them? What if I do not feel glad? And to this I say, look deeper. It may not be good to see the role they play, the mask they wear, the memory they stir in you, but beneath all that, the fact remains. Here is another fragment of the universe. Here is another wave of the great ocean, meeting you in this moment. And in that meeting, there is always something to be glad of, even if it is only the fact that you both exist side by side for a flicker of time. For consider how astonishing it is that anyone exists at all. That you exist, that I exist, that consciousness has taken form as this particular pattern, this particular face, this particular voice. When you see it in this way, every meeting is miraculous. To acknowledge it is not flattery, but truth. And so, you begin to notice that the words you speak are less about communication in the conventional sense and more about recognition. You are not exchanging information, you are exchanging presence. The syllables are only carriers. What they carry is being. This is why, if you rely on empty formulas, you may be heard but not felt. And if you speak simply from presence, even the smallest phrase becomes radiant. To say, "It's good to see you," with sincerity, is to participate in that radiance. It is to let another feel that life itself is worth noticing, worth affirming. And once you begin to live in this way, you discover that attraction is not something you generate. It is something that happens. It is the natural consequence of being awake. Just as flowers do not try to attract bees, and yet bees come, so too does presence attract attention, not by effort, but by being what it is. The deeper secret, however, is that the attraction you create in others is only a reflection of the attraction you begin to feel toward life itself. When you see another and say, "It's good to see you," you are training your own vision to notice the goodness, the beauty, the miracle of the world around you. You are cultivating a habit of presence, and soon you find yourself not only attracting others, but attracting life opportunities, insights, synchronicities, moments of grace. So, perhaps the 4 words are less important than the spirit in which they are spoken. For there are countless other ways to say the same thing. You might say, "I'm glad you're here." You might say, "Wonderful to meet you." You might simply smile in a way that carries the same energy. The words themselves may change, but the essence is the same: to recognize, to affirm, to be present. And this is why we must be careful not to turn the phrase itself into another formula. If you repeat, "It's good to see you," without awareness, it will soon be no different from, "Hi, how are you?" The life will have gone out of it. The secret is not in the sound, but in the being. The 4 words are only a doorway. What matters is that you walk through it. So then, if you wish to attract others, if you wish to leave behind the fog of forgettable interactions, begin not with tricks, not with manipulation, but with presence. Begin with words that are alive. Begin with the recognition that every meeting is unique, unrepeatable, miraculous, and let your language reflect that. For when you do, you will find that people remember you, not because you dazzled them, but because they felt seen. They will be drawn to you, not because you impressed them, but because they felt alive in your presence. That is the deepest attraction of all, to awaken life in one another. And so, let these 4 words serve as a reminder, not a formula. Let them remind you that the secret of connection, the secret of attraction, the secret of being unforgettable is simply to be here, to be alive, to let your words carry the fragrance of that aliveness. Then, whether you say, "It's good to see you," or any other phrase that arises naturally, it will not matter. What matters is that you are not speaking from habit, but from the truth of this moment. And the truth of this moment is always enough. So, when you next meet another person, pause for a moment, notice them. Notice yourself. Let the words come, not from memory, but from life itself. And when you say, "It's good to see you," or whatever form it takes, let it be real. For in that realness lies the power to attract, to connect, and to awaken. And then, perhaps, you will see that the real secret is not how to attract others, but how to awaken to the beauty of being itself. For when you are awake to that, attraction follows naturally, as light draws the eye, as music draws the ear, as love draws the heart.
You know, I've been asked countless times by people who've had what they call a spiritual awakening, why do I feel so unmotivated? Why does nothing seem to matter anymore? I used to be ambitious. I used to want things. I used to have goals and dreams, and now nothing. And they say this with a kind of concern, as if something has gone terribly wrong. As if the awakening itself was a mistake, a cosmic error that needs to be corrected. But let me tell you something that might surprise you. What you're experiencing isn't a problem at all. It's actually the most natural thing in the world. You see, what we call motivation in the ordinary sense is really just a sophisticated form of running away. It's escape. When you were motivated before, what were you really motivated by? Fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of death. Fear of meaninglessness. Fear of being nobody, going nowhere, amounting to nothing. Think about it carefully. All that striving, all that ambition, all those goals you set for yourself, they were all based on a fundamental assumption. The assumption that you were insufficient as you are, that you needed to become something other than what you are, that life needed to be fixed, improved, gotten somewhere with. You were operating under the illusion that you were a separate individual who needed to make their mark on the world, who needed to justify their existence, who needed to prove their worth. But then something happened. You woke up, and in that awakening, you saw through the game. You realized, perhaps suddenly, or perhaps gradually, that the whole thing was a magnificent hoax. Not a malicious hoax, mind you, but a cosmic game of hide and seek. You discovered that you are not, in fact, a separate fragment of consciousness locked inside a bag of skin, desperately trying to survive in a hostile universe. You realize that you are the universe itself, playing at being you. Now, when this realization dawns, even partially, what happens to all those motivations you had before? They collapse. They have to collapse because they were built on sand. They were built on a false premise, the premise of separation, of lack, of incompleteness. And once you see that the premise is false, the entire structure that was built upon it becomes, well, rather absurd, doesn't it? Imagine you're watching a movie and you're completely absorbed in it. The hero is in danger and you're on the edge of your seat, heart pounding, palms sweating. You're motivated to see him escape, to see him triumph. But then someone turns on the lights and you suddenly remember, oh yes, it's just a movie. It's just actors on a screen. Nobody is actually in danger. Now, can you return to that same level of motivation? Can you care as intensely as you did before? Of course not. You've seen through it. This is what has happened to you. You've had the lights turned on, so to speak, and now you're sitting there wondering why you can't get back into the movie. Why you can't summon the same intensity of concern and ambition you once had. And my question to you is, why would you want to? You see, there's a common misunderstanding about spiritual awakening. People think it's supposed to make you into some kind of super person, more successful, more motivated, more capable. They think enlightenment means you'll be better at the game of life. But that's not what awakening is about at all. Awakening means seeing that life isn't a game you need to win. It's a dance you're invited to participate in, or not, as you choose. Let me put it another way. Before awakening, you were like someone who believed they needed to make waves in the ocean. You were splashing about frantically, trying to create the biggest splash, trying to make your mark on the water. But after awakening, you realize you are the ocean. The waves are already happening. They don't need your anxiety to propel them forward. They move by themselves, naturally, effortlessly. This is what the Taoists call Wu Wei, action without action, or effortless doing. It's not that you become passive or lazy. Rather, you stop forcing things. You stop pushing the river. You allow life to flow through you rather than constantly trying to manipulate it to your advantage. Now, here's where it gets interesting. You see, motivation, as we commonly understand it, is tied up with desire. and desire is tied up with the feeling of lack. You desire what you don't have. You're motivated to pursue what you believe will complete you, fulfill you, make you whole. But awakening reveals that you're already whole. You're already complete. There's nothing lacking, nothing that needs to be added to you to make you acceptable or worthwhile. This realization can be profoundly destabilizing, because your entire life up until this point has been organized around the pursuit of fulfillment. Your career, your relationships, your hobbies, your ambitions, all of it was geared toward filling what you perceived as a fundamental emptiness inside yourself. And now, suddenly, you realize there is no emptiness to fill. Or rather, the emptiness itself is fullness. The void is plenum. So naturally, you feel unmotivated. All your previous motivations were attempts to escape from yourself, to become something other than what you are. But now that you've glimpsed your true nature, that particular game loses its appeal. It's like trying to convince someone who's discovered they're already a millionaire to keep working desperately for pennies. Why would they? What would be the point? But, and this is crucial, this doesn't mean you do nothing. It doesn't mean you lie in bed all day staring at the ceiling. What it means is that your actions are no longer driven by fear and lack. They arise spontaneously, naturally, from your being, rather than from your desperate doing. Think of a tree. Is a tree motivated to grow? Does it have goals and ambitions? Does it wake up in the morning and set intentions for how many leaves it's going to produce that day? Of course not. It simply grows. It's its nature to grow. And in the same way, when you're no longer blocked by the false sense of being a separate ego that needs to constantly justify its existence, you simply do what's natural to you. Not because you should, not because it will get you somewhere, but because it's an expression of what you are. This is the great paradox that so many people stumble over. They awaken and expect to feel more motivated than ever, more clear about their purpose, more driven to achieve great things. Instead, they feel empty, directionless, unmotivated, and they panic, thinking something has gone wrong, but nothing has gone wrong. What's happened is that the false motivation, the fear-based, ego-driven motivation, has been revealed for what it is. And in its absence, there's a space, a silence, a stillness. Most people find this silence terrifying. They immediately try to fill it up again with new goals, new ambitions, new spiritual pursuits. They turn awakening itself into another achievement to pursue, another identity to construct. Now, I'm not just John or Jane, I'm awakened John, enlightened Jane, but this is just the ego wearing different clothes. It's still the same game of separation and striving, just dressed up in spiritual language. The real question is, can you tolerate the emptiness? Can you sit with the lack of motivation without trying to fix it, without trying to generate artificial enthusiasm for things that no longer genuinely interest you? Can you be nobody going nowhere and be completely at peace with that? This is where the real work begins. And I use the word work loosely because it's not work in the usual sense. It's more like allowing yourself to be without purpose, allowing yourself to exist without justification, allowing life to move through you without your constant interference and management. You see, what most people don't realize is that the universe is not static. It's not a dead thing that needs to be pushed and prodded into action. It's alive, dynamic, constantly creating itself. And you are not separate from this creative process. You are this creative process. When you stop trying to control everything, when you stop forcing your personal will onto reality, something remarkable happens. The larger intelligence of life itself begins to express through you. But this requires trust. Enormous trust. You have to trust that life knows what it's doing, that the universe is not going to let you fall through the cracks just because you're not micromanaging every detail of your existence. This is perhaps the hardest thing for the Western mind to accept, because we've been trained from birth to believe that we have to make things happen, that nothing will get done unless we personally see to it. Eastern philosophy has a different perspective. In Taoism, there's this wonderful idea that the universe is self-governing. that it operates by spontaneous harmony without any need for central control or planning. A tree doesn't need a supervisor to tell it how to grow. A bird doesn't need a manual on how to build a nest. And in the same way, you don't need your anxious ego to tell you how to live. Life already knows how to live itself through you. Now, I can hear the objection already, but Alan, if I don't motivate myself, I'll just become lazy. I'll accomplish nothing. I'll waste my life. This objection comes from the assumption that human beings are fundamentally lazy and need to be whipped into action. But is this really true? Look at children before they're conditioned by society. Are they unmotivated? On the contrary, they're bursting with energy and curiosity. They don't need to be motivated to play, to explore, to create. It's their nature. What happens is that this natural spontaneity gets crushed by education, by socialization, by the constant message that you need to be productive, useful, successful. You need to prove your worth. You need to earn your place in the world. And so you develop this artificial motivation system, this internal slave driver that's constantly pushing you, criticizing you, never allowing you to simply be. Spiritual awakening dismantles this internal slave driver. And yes, when it goes, you feel unmotivated, but only unmotivated to participate in that particular game of self-torture. What emerges in its place, if you're patient, is something much more natural and authentic. Not the frantic energy of someone running away from their fear of death and meaninglessness, but the calm, steady energy of someone who's at home in themselves, who's at peace with existence. Let me share something with you. When I was younger, I was tremendously ambitious. I wanted to make a name for myself, to be recognized, to be somebody important. I threw myself into my studies, into my work, into my writing, and there was a certain energy to it, yes, but it was the energy of desperation. I was running, trying to outpace my own sense of inadequacy. Then, through my study of Eastern philosophy and my own inner work, something shifted. The urgency fell away. And for a time, I felt exactly what you're feeling now, unmotivated, directionless, wondering what the point was. But I sat with it. I didn't try to fix it or escape from it. And gradually, I discovered that actions still happened. Words still came. Work still got done. But it wasn't coming from that desperate, anxious place anymore. It was coming from, well, it's hard to describe. From silence, perhaps. From emptiness. From the simple joy of doing the thing for its own sake, not for what it might achieve. This is what the Zen masters mean when they talk about chopping wood, carrying water. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The actions look the same from the outside, but the internal quality is completely different. Before awakening, you chop wood because you should, because it needs to be done, because you're trying to be a good person or achieve some goal. After awakening, you chop wood because you're chopping wood. That's all. No hidden agenda, no ulterior motive, just the pure act itself. And here's the beautiful thing. When you act from this place of spontaneous naturalness rather than forced motivation, your actions tend to be much more effective. They're not confused by all the psychological baggage, all the fear and desire and anxiety. They're clean, direct, appropriate to the situation. It's like the difference between muddy water and clear water. Both are water, but one allows you to see clearly, and the other doesn't. So what do you do with this lack of motivation you're experiencing? Nothing. You do nothing with it. You let it be. You stop trying to fix yourself, to improve yourself, to motivate yourself. You allow this phase to unfold in its own time. Because what's really happening is that you're being reorganized at a fundamental level. The old software is being uninstalled, so to speak, and new software is being written. But this process can't be rushed. It has its own timing, its own rhythm. In the meantime, be gentle with yourself. Don't compare yourself to who you were before, or to who you think you should be. Don't try to force yourself back into old patterns that no longer fit. Instead, be curious. Observe what's happening without judgment. Notice what naturally attracts your attention, what makes you feel alive, what makes you laugh or wonder or feel deeply. You might find that your interests have completely changed. Things that once seemed tremendously important might now seem trivial, and things you never paid attention to before might suddenly captivate you. This is natural. You're not the same person you were before awakening. You can't expect to want the same things or be motivated by the same goals. There's a wonderful story from the Zen tradition about a master who, after his enlightenment, was asked what he did. He said, "When I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm tired, I sleep." His questioner was puzzled. "But doesn't everyone do that?" The master replied, "No. When most people eat, they're thinking about 1,000 other things. When they sleep, they're worrying about tomorrow. But when I eat, I just eat. When I sleep, I just sleep." This is the quality of life that emerges after the false motivation falls away. Not a life of high achievement or constant productivity, necessarily, but a life of presence, of wholeness, of being fully here for whatever is happening right now. And paradoxically, this often leads to a kind of productivity that far exceeds what forced motivation ever achieved, because it's not scattered and conflicted. It's unified, focused, natural, but whether it leads to great productivity or not is beside the point. The point is that you're no longer living from a place of lack and fear. You're living from a place of sufficiency and peace. And from that place, whatever unfolds is exactly what needs to unfold. So don't worry about your lack of motivation. Don't try to whip yourself back into shape. Don't feel guilty for not having goals and ambitions. Instead, rest in the recognition that brought you to this point in the first place. The recognition that you are already whole, already complete, already home. Everything else will take care of itself. The universe has been managing quite well for billions of years without your anxious interference. It will continue to manage, and you are not separate from that management. You are how the universe is managing things right here, right now, in this particular location. Trust that. Trust yourself. Trust life. And in that trust, you might just discover
there comes a moment in every human life when the very thing you depend on, the thing you've trusted since childhood, simply stops working. The mechanism of effort. You push and push. You try to hold yourself together. You devote yourself to improvement, to goals, to plans, to becoming someone you can be proud of. And one day, without warning, the whole engine seizes. Nothing responds. Nothing moves. You work harder, thinking perhaps you miscalculated, perhaps you didn't give enough, perhaps you simply have to exert more force. But the more you push, the less life offers in return. It is a bewildering kind of silence. You reach out into life with both hands, and it feels as though the universe has quietly stepped back. You find yourself asking questions you thought you had outgrown. Why isn't this working? What am I missing? Why does it feel like I am doing everything and going nowhere? And beneath those questions is another one, far more frightening, but also far more honest. What if nothing I do is enough? Now, that is the moment where most people panic. They scramble. They tighten their grip. They look for new techniques, new hacks, new philosophies promising results. But all of that is simply more effort, more resistance, more of the same fuel that was already burning you out. You see, life has a very peculiar way of speaking when you're going too fast. It stops answering, not as a punishment, but as a way of getting your attention. You think effort is what moves life, but it is actually life that moves you. And when life wants you still, when it wants you quiet, when it wants you to finally hear what lies beneath the noise of your striving, it takes away the illusion of forward motion. You may interpret that as failure, but it is simply a pause, a sacred pause. You think you've been abandoned by momentum, but in truth you have only been returned to yourself. Just look at the world. Rivers do not rush every moment. Even the tides rest. The seasons linger before shifting. A tree does not strain upward each day. Growth comes in pulses, in breaths. expansion, stillness, expansion, stillness. But the human mind insists that stillness means something is wrong. It calls it stagnation. It calls it failure. And because the world keeps praising endless motion, you have come to believe that if you are not advancing, you are falling behind. But life is not linear. It never has been. It spirals, it circles, it pauses, it waits for the right conditions. If you look carefully at the times when nothing moved for you, you will see that they were shaping you in ways action never could. People ask, why am I trying so hard and seeing nothing? And the answer is very simple. Because the part of you doing the trying is not the part that is meant to move. There is a deeper intelligence in you, one that does not measure your worth by progress, one that does not calculate value based on effort. It is the same intelligence that grows your hair and heals your wounds and keeps your heart beating while you sleep. It does not need your effort. In fact, your effort often gets in its way. Think of someone drowning. Their instinct is to thrash, to claw at the water, to fight for control. But the harder they struggle, the faster they sink. Only when they stop fighting, when they allow themselves to float, does the water hold them up. In the same way, your effort can sometimes be the very thing pulling you under. You are trying to swim in places where you are meant to float. Now, that does not mean effort is wrong. Effort has its place. But when effort is fueled by fear, by desperation, by the need to prove something to yourself or to the world, it becomes a burden. You carry it like a weight, imagining it will deliver you to some distant shore where everything finally makes sense. But effort cannot deliver you to a place that already exists beneath your feet. There is a reason your effort led nowhere. Because the direction you were forcing yourself toward was never meant for you. If the door refuses to open, it is because there is nothing for you behind it. You may not see this now. You may think all your plans were sensible and well constructed. But the universe does not organize itself according to your expectations. It organizes itself according to resonance, according to timing, according to the unfolding of things that you cannot yet see. And when you push against that unfolding, the universe does not punish you. It simply waits. It waits for the moment you stop trying to bend life into the shape you prefer. It waits for the moment you surrender your insistence that you know what is best for you. It waits for the moment you are still enough to feel the movement of life itself. Because what feels like nowhere is not the absence of direction. It is the clearing of direction, the ground being leveled, the noise being softened, so that when life finally moves you, it moves you cleanly, effortlessly, without the friction of your resistance. Many people think the universe rewards effort, but look closely. The universe rewards alignment. Effort without alignment leads nowhere. Alignment without effort leads everywhere. You may not realize it, but the version of you that was pushing so hard no longer exists. Something in you is dying. Something in you is dissolving, not to hurt you, but to make space. The life that effort built is too small for who you are becoming. And life knows this. That is why it blocked you. That is why it held your progress still. You were reaching for a future that was beneath you. Now, none of this makes the moment easier. You wake up and it feels like your mind is foggy, your energy is heavy, your enthusiasm drained. It feels like failure because you have been trained to believe that constant striving is evidence of worth. But what if worth has nothing to do with striving? What if the universe is not measuring how hard you push, but how deeply you listen? You are not stuck. You are being emptied. And emptiness is not a mistake. It is preparation. When a bowl is full of old water, you cannot pour anything new into it. When a room is crowded, no one else can enter. When a path is cluttered, nothing can pass. Life clears you out so that something that actually belongs to you can take shape. But you must be still to see it. You must let the noise of your effort settle. The modern world has made stillness feel shameful. People ask, what are you working on? What are you building? What are you producing? But no one asks, how deeply are you listening? How fully are you here? How much of yourself is aligned with your own experience? So when your effort leads nowhere, you think you've failed, but really you are being invited to rediscover a way of living that does not rely on exhaustion, a way of living that does not sacrifice the present for the illusion of a future, a way of living that trusts that life, not effort, is the thing that moves you. You are not in the wrong place. You are at the threshold. And thresholds never look like progress. They look like pauses. The universe is not withholding motion from you. It is preparing you for the kind of motion that will not break you. And if you stay with this moment long enough, something begins to shift. Not in the world around you, but in the felt sense of your own being. You start to notice that the tension you've carried for years begins to loosen. The constant background hum of urgency fades, even if only a little. You notice that you can breathe more deeply, even though nothing in your circumstances has changed. This is how the dissolution begins. First in the body, then in the mind, and only later in the life you live. You may not recognize it as movement, because you are looking for movement in the form of results. But the universe often moves you long before you see where it is taking you. You see, effort is loud. It demands. It insists. It clenches its fists and tightens its jaw. Effort says, I must get somewhere. I must achieve something. I must become someone. Effort is the voice of the self that believes it is separate from life, responsible for controlling every outcome, and so it exhausts itself. But life is quiet. Life whispers. Life waits. Life unfolds without strain. It breathes you. It beats your heart. It digests your food without asking your permission. Life does not struggle. Life simply moves. And when your effort leads nowhere, it is usually because life is trying to teach you its rhythm. It is trying to show you that the moment you stop forcing movement, a deeper movement begins. But the mind resists this. It says, if I stop trying, everything will collapse. But what if everything is collapsing precisely because you keep trying to hold together what you have outgrown, trying to push through doors that are no longer meant to open, trying to maintain an identity that is no longer true? There are seasons in your life when you are meant to build, seasons when you are meant to strive, seasons when effort flows easily because you are aligned with the direction of life. But there are also seasons when you are meant to unravel, seasons when effort becomes impossible because something softer, something wiser is asking to be heard. When all your effort leads nowhere, you are in such a season of undoing, a season of clearing, a season of returning to the ground of yourself. You may not realize it yet, but the nowhere you fear is actually the stillness from which true direction emerges. When you look at your life through the lens of the mind, you see stagnation. But through the lens of awareness, you see gestation. Something is forming in you, something you cannot name yet. It is not ambition, it is not desire, it is not a goal. It is a different orientation altogether. A way of relating to life that is not built on effort but on presence. Most people live their lives relying on effort because they have never experienced the intelligence of presence. They don't trust stillness because they never learned to listen. They were taught that life rewards productivity. They were taught that hard work guarantees results. But if you look carefully, you will see that the moments that shaped you the most were rarely the ones you worked hardest for. They were the moments that arrived quietly, unexpectedly, without effort. You did not effort your way into meeting the most important people in your life. You did not effort your way into the moments that changed your heart, the experiences that softened you, the realizations that awakened you. Those came on their own. They came because life brought them. So when effort stops working, it is because life wants to bring you something new, something you cannot arrive at through force, something that requires you to be softer, quieter, more honest with yourself, something that comes only when the mind finally grows tired of its endless pushing and falls into silence. And this silence, uncomfortable as it may be, is not emptiness, it is spaciousness. It is the clearing where truth appears. It is in this silence that you begin to see the difference between the life you were trained to chase and the life that actually belongs to you. You start to question the motives behind your striving. Was it truly for growth? Or was it to avoid feeling unworthy? Was it truly for joy? Or was it for validation? Was it truly aligned with your nature? Or was it aligned with the expectations of others? You may discover that much of your effort was never really yours. It was inherited from fears that were never examined. It was shaped by environments that rewarded burnout. It was fueled by a misunderstanding of what makes life meaningful. When that misunderstanding dissolves, effort falls away on its own, not because you stop caring, but because you stop pretending. You stop pretending that pushing yourself beyond your limits will lead to peace. You stop pretending that success will fill the places inside you that ache. You stop pretending that effort alone can save you from the fear of not being enough. And once you stop pretending, you can finally rest. This rest is not laziness. It is not giving up. It is not weakness. It is a return to sanity. It is a return to alignment. It is the moment when you stop swimming against the current of your own life. From the outside, it may look like nothing is happening, but inside, the landscape is changing. Your nervous system begins to unwind. Your thoughts begin to slow. Your breath deepens. The frantic momentum that once carried you begins to dissolve. You are not failing. You are recalibrating. And in this recalibration, you start to notice things you were too busy to see before. The texture of your own awareness, the subtle ways your intuition speaks, the places in your body that have been tight for years, the dreams you abandoned without even realizing you had, the person you became while trying to become someone else. All of this begins to surface. It is not chaos, it is clarity. The truth is that effort was distracting you from yourself. It kept you busy, occupied, forward-focused. It kept you from feeling the deeper longing within you, the longing to simply be, the longing to return to a life that is not constantly demanding something from you, the longing to let life move you instead of trying to drag life behind you. And so, effort stops working. Not because you are unworthy, not because you are unprepared, but because you are being guided into a different mode of living. One where effort is no longer your identity. One where your direction comes from a quiet inner knowing rather than external pressure. This is why the universe so often leads people into these moments of nowhere, not to punish them, but to soften them, not to stop their life, but to redirect it, not to take away their control, but to remind them that they never needed control to begin with. When you reach the point where effort collapses, you begin to encounter the truth that effort was never the real source of your growth. Growth happened in the moments when you were open, when you surrendered, when you let yourself be touched by something deeper than your goals. And that is where you are now, at the threshold between effort and awareness, between striving and being, between noise and silence, between the life you tried to control and the life you are meant to live. If you can allow yourself to rest here, even for a moment, you will begin to feel the faint stirrings of a new movement. It does not rush, it does not demand, it does not require you to force anything. It simply invites you to listen, and in that listening, you will discover that nowhere is not a dead end. It is a doorway, the doorway through which every real change in your life has ever entered. There is a strange and wonderful thing that happens when you begin to trust the doorway that looks like nowhere. At first you approach it cautiously, still believing that perhaps you are making some terrible mistake by allowing your effort to rest. You have been trained for so long to equate movement with meaning that stillness feels like a kind of death. But as you linger there, the mind softens, the body loosens, and the deeper intelligence within you begins to rise like something that has been waiting in the dark for years. It rises slowly, quietly, in the same way dawn approaches the horizon. It does not announce itself, it simply brightens. It reveals. And what it reveals is the space beneath your striving, the part of you that was never exhausted to begin with. There is an awareness in you that has watched your entire life unfold. It has observed your victories and your failures, your moments of clarity and your moments of confusion, your seasons of abundance and your seasons of collapse. It has never been tired because it has never been the one doing the striving. It has only been witnessing. When you arrive in this space, the first thing you feel is relief. Not the kind of relief that comes from solving a problem, but the kind that comes from no longer needing to solve it. You realize that the problem was never your lack of effort, but your reliance on effort. You had mistaken force for intelligence, striving for direction, exhaustion for achievement. And the moment you recognize this, a great exhale moves through your entire being. Life becomes softer. The air feels different. You begin to sense that you are not trudging through a hostile universe, but participating in a movement that has always been supporting you, even when you were resisting it. This is the first quiet shift, the recognition that you are not lost. You were simply moving too quickly to feel the hands that were guiding you. You may think this realization brings immediate peace, but peace is not the first gift. The first gift is honesty, a profound honesty that rises from your chest like a tide that can no longer be pushed back. You begin to see the truth of your exhaustion, the truth of your longing, the truth of the life you have been carrying on your shoulders. And as these truths surface, they do not hurt you, they free you. You realize you have been exhausting yourself with expectations that were never aligned with your nature. You realize you have been chasing a version of yourself that was shaped more by fear than by authenticity. You realize that much of your striving came from the belief that you needed to become extraordinary, to be worthy of rest, of love, of belonging. And when this breaks open inside you, something remarkable happens. You stop running. Not because you have nowhere left to go, but because you finally see that the running never brought you closer to anything real. It only brought you deeper into the maze of your own mind. A maze filled with ideals, standards, comparisons, imagined futures, and old wounds disguised as ambition. You were not navigating life. You were navigating your conditioning. And conditioning does not lead forward. It only loops. This is why effort led nowhere, because you were running in circles that only felt like progress. The universe is too kind to let you waste your life in a maze, so it closed the doors that kept you spinning. It exhausted the strategies that no longer served you. It silenced the paths that were fueled by fear, not to punish you, but to liberate you. And liberation begins with stillness. Once you allow this stillness, even reluctantly, life begins to reorganize you from the inside out. It starts gently, like a whisper in the back of your awareness. You notice you are less interested in proving yourself. You notice you are less reactive to the pressures around you. You notice that the urge to force things weakens. You begin to see that you don't need to control life for life to move. It is here that you begin to learn the art of allowing. Allowing does not mean passivity. It does not mean giving up. It means listening. It means recognizing that every movement in life has a rhythm, and that rhythm cannot be rushed. If you push a seed too quickly, it dies. If you force a flower open, it collapses. If you try to make the ocean still, it churns. The nature of things must be honored, and you are part of nature. So when your effort leads nowhere, it is often because you were pushing yourself beyond the rhythm of your own becoming. You were demanding a harvest in the middle of winter. You were insisting on clarity during a season meant for undoing. You were looking for answers in a moment meant for silence. Life knows the rhythm even when you do not. And this is why surrender becomes the second gift. Not surrender to failure, but surrender to the deeper intelligence that is orchestrating your life. A surrender that feels less like giving up and more like being carried. As you settle into this surrender, a new form of strength emerges in you. Not the strength of tension, but the strength of openness. Not the strength of endurance, but the strength of awareness. You begin to notice that you can hold your experience more fully without collapsing under it. You realize that life has always been easier when you are not clutching at it. The mind may protest, saying you must be vigilant, you must plan, you must control, you must do something. But you begin to see that much of what the mind calls control is simply fear wearing a helpful mask. Control has exhausted you for years. Control has kept you in the maze. Control has convinced you that the world is unpredictable and that your safety depends on constant effort. But safety does not come from control. Safety comes from trust, from awareness, from presence, from the understanding that you are not navigating life alone. Life is navigating you. As this understanding deepens, your relationship with yourself changes in subtle but powerful ways. You no longer judge yourself for being tired. You no longer shame yourself for not knowing the next step. You no longer criticize yourself for pausing. Instead, you begin to treat yourself with the gentleness that life has been trying to teach you. You become less interested in rushing, less interested in proving, less interested in perfection, more interested in honesty, more interested in ease, more interested in alignment. This is the beginning of authentic living. You start to notice what drains you and what nourishes you. You start to choose rest without guilt. You start to slow down enough to hear your own intuition, which has been speaking to you all these years, but could not be heard over the noise of your effort. It is in this slowing that life begins to reveal its next direction. Not through pressure, but through pull. Not through force, but through resonance. You feel drawn to things that once seemed unimportant. You find clarity in moments that once felt quiet. You notice openings that were invisible when you were rushing past them. This is how life guides you. Gently, subtly, consistently, and as you follow this pull, something miraculous begins to happen. The movement you have been waiting for returns, but it does not come with strain. It comes with grace. Suddenly, the path that once felt blocked begins to open. Opportunities that once seemed impossible appear naturally. People who resonate with your new way of being begin to enter your life. Conversations align. Timing aligns. Energy aligns. Movement returns. Not because you forced it, but because you became aligned with it. Your life begins to expand again, but now from the inside out, you are not chasing the world, you are meeting it. You begin to realize that the pauses in your life were not interruptions, they were recalibrations. They were the universe adjusting your direction. They were the moments when life was saving you from futures that did not belong to you. Every period where effort led nowhere was a moment where you were being redirected toward a place where effort would be unnecessary. Because alignment does not require force. It requires presence. You may think you lost time in those seasons, but what you lost was not time. What you lost was the illusion that you could control your way into peace, and what you gained was far greater. You gained the ability to listen. You gained the capacity to feel. You gained the clarity to recognize what is truly meant for you. When you look back, you will see that the times when your effort failed were the very times when your life was protecting you from paths you were forcing yourself into, protecting you from versions of yourself you no longer needed to become, protecting you from directions that would have drained you even further. You were not failing. You were being held, and now you stand in a different kind of space. A space where life no longer feels like something you must conquer, but something you can participate in. A space where your worth is not tied to productivity. A a space where you can meet yourself without judgment, a space where you can rest without apology. From this space, effort becomes something new. It becomes an expression of alignment rather than a compensation for fear. You act when moved, not when pressured. You move when guided, not when panicked. You work from fullness, not from depletion. Life begins to feel lighter, more fluid, more honest. It becomes less about achieving and more about unfolding, less about getting somewhere and more about being here. The weight you carried for years lifts, not because you accomplished something extraordinary, but because you stopped arguing with the rhythm of your own becoming. When all your effort leads nowhere, it is because you are being led somewhere deeper, somewhere quieter, somewhere more real, somewhere your mind could not lead you because your mind is trained to repeat the past. Awareness is what moves you into the future. This is the gift hidden inside exhaustion, the return to what has always been guiding you, the return to the intelligence that does not strain, the return to the part of you that is already whole. You were never meant to live your life struggling upstream. You were meant to flow with the current of your own truth. You were meant to follow the quiet pull of the life that is aligned with your nature. You were meant to allow what is real to rise and allow what is false to fall away. You have spent so long trying to become someone worthy, not realizing that the worthiness was already there beneath the layers of effort. And when effort collapses, you are finally able to feel it. This is why life stops you. This is why effort fails. This is why you find yourself in seasons of stillness. Not because you are unworthy of movement, but because you are being prepared for a different kind of movement. A movement that does not exhaust you but expresses you. A movement that does not pull you away from yourself but brings you deeper into the heart of your own life. The greatest transformation of your life will not come from striving, it will come from listening. And now, after everything has collapsed, after all the doors have refused to open, after the exhaustion has stripped you bare, you are finally quiet enough to hear. And what you hear is this: you were never meant to force your way through life. You were meant to fall into alignment with it. And once you do, everything that once felt unreachable begins to unfold naturally. Not because you worked harder, but because you stopped resisting the truth of who you are. This is what happens when all your effort leads nowhere. It is the beginning of the life that is actually yours.